Hey guys, thanks for clicking enjoy the video, like, and sub for more. Hi Reddit. I've been going back and forth about posting this, but I'm so conflicted, and I need some outside perspective. So here it goes. I, 32F, am the middle child in a family of 3. My younger sister, Rachel, 29F, and I used to be incredibly close. We grew up in a small town, always looking out for each other, even though our family situation was far from perfect. My older brother Mark, 35M, lives across the country and is fairly uninvolved in family issues, which makes sense given his own struggles. Background on our family life. Our parents were always strained, both financially and emotionally, and we pretty much had to take care of each other growing up. My mom worked 2 jobs, while my dad was often out of work due to a chronic health issue. Their relationship was rocky and they argued frequently about finances. The tension was thick in our household, and I remember feeling like I was walking on eggshells much of the time. Because of this, we developed a tight bond as siblings. Me, Rachel, and Mark were our own little support system. I often felt like a second mom to Rachel and Mark, helping with homework, making meals, and getting them ready for school. Rachel and I, especially, were like 2 sides of the same coin. Despite our closeness, we grew up to be opposites in almost every way. I'm more of a homebody, and I crave stability, while Rachel is free-spirited and always seemed to long for excitement and adventure. It's as if she was always trying to escape the confines of our tough upbringing. After high school, I managed to get a scholarship for college and eventually started working in HR, which gave me a stable income. I worked long hours and saved as much as I could, eventually managing to buy a small home. I'm proud of what I've built for myself, even if it isn't grand. I enjoy the simplicity of my life, my routines, and the fact that I finally feel safe. Rachel, on the other hand, took a very different path. She drifted through various cities and jobs, staying with friends or boyfriends, never really settling down. She always had grand plans, big dreams that seemed just out of reach. And while I admired her courage, I often worried about her. She struggled with substance abuse in her early 20s, which was an incredibly difficult time for our family. She was in and out of rehab, and I went to every meeting, every intervention, every tearful conversation trying to encourage her to get better. But Rachel's relationships were usually turbulent, and her lifestyle choices often made things harder for her. Rachel's relationship with Alex. About 5 years ago, Rachel met Alex, and at first, it seemed like things might finally be stable for her. Alex seemed responsible, and he encouraged Rachel to take up healthier habits. I remember feeling cautiously optimistic for the first time in years. Alex was her rock for a while, and we thought he might help her get on a stable path. But then, like so many of her other relationships, things quickly became messy. Rachel and Alex's relationship was tumultuous from the start. They would break up and make up constantly, and it was like watching a roller coaster that I couldn't get off. At some point, Rachel told us she was pregnant with Lily. It was unexpected, and I worried that neither of them was truly ready for a child. But Rachel was determined to make it work. Lily's birth was a turning point, though not in the way I'd hoped. Alex stuck around for a little while but was increasingly absent. He started disappearing for days at a time, making excuses about work or family emergencies. Eventually, he moved out and left Rachel to care for Lily almost entirely on her own. It broke my heart, but I hoped that this would push Rachel to build a stable life for herself and her daughter. She's tried, she really has, but it's been a constant struggle. Rachel's recent struggles and her request. A year ago, Rachel lost her job due to a layoff, and things quickly spiraled out of control. She moved in with our parents to save on rent, but that arrangement quickly became problematic. Our parents, now in their late 60s, are dealing with health problems and are simply not equipped to handle a young, active child full-time. The stress was getting to everyone, and tensions at home were high. I stepped in as much as I could. I bought groceries, helped with Lily's daycare costs when Rachel could afford it, and babysat whenever I could find the time. I felt responsible for them, but also deeply frustrated. There was a constant nagging feeling that my life was being pulled into the chaos I'd worked so hard to escape. I love Lily, and I would do anything for her, but I wasn't prepared to take on the role of a parent. Then, a month ago, Rachel called me in tears. She told me she was overwhelmed, that she didn't think she could keep raising Lily alone, and she asked me if I would take Lily in, at least temporarily. She said she wanted to go back to rehab and was thinking about moving out of state to live with a friend who could help her get back on her feet. The request caught me off guard. I felt a mix of emotions: shock, sadness, anger, and guilt. I wanted to help, but the thought of taking Lily in full-time was overwhelming. I would be giving up my quiet, stable life, my financial security, and my independence. My home would no longer be just mine. It would be a place where a young child lived, with all the responsibilities and sacrifices that come with it. Rachel assured me it would only be for a year or 2, but I knew her pattern. She has always been unpredictable, jumping from one plan to the next, and her relationships and commitments rarely last. I feared that I'd be signing up for a lifetime of responsibility without any clear end in sight. And I worried about the impact on Lily. How would she feel being shuffled around like this? I told Rachel that I needed time to think about it. She seemed frustrated, but agreed. Over the next few days, she sent me several texts and even left me a voicemail, saying things like, "Lily would be so much better off with you, and you're the only one I can trust." The messages tugged at my heart, but they also felt manipulative. Conversations with family members. After much deliberation, I finally talked to my parents about it. I thought they might understand my hesitations, but they didn't. They said I was being selfish, that family takes care of family. They argued that Lily would have a much better life with me than with Rachel, and that I was the only one with the stability and resources to make it work. My mom said I should be grateful for the chance to give Lily a stable home, and my dad mentioned that it was my duty as her aunt. I tried to explain that I wasn't prepared to take on such a huge responsibility, that I had never planned to be a parent, and that I had my own life to think about. But my parents just kept saying that I was thinking of myself instead of the family. In a moment of desperation, I reached out to Mark. He lives across the country and has 2 young kids of his own. He listened and offered sympathy, but made it clear that he couldn't take on any additional responsibility. "I get where you're coming from," he said, "but this isn't something I can help with. I have my own family to think about." Mark's response left me feeling more alone than ever. I was the only one left to shoulder this burden, and my family seemed to think it was my duty simply because I was the responsible one. No one seemed to understand that I had my own boundaries, my own dreams, and my own life to protect. My decision and the fallout. After countless sleepless nights, I finally made my decision. I told Rachel that I couldn't take Lily in full-time, but that I would continue to support her however I could. I offered to help her find resources for single mothers, and I even suggested looking into temporary foster care as a short-term solution. I also offered to cover some of her childcare costs and help set up a college fund for Lily, so she could have a brighter future. Rachel was furious. She accused me of abandoning her, of choosing my lifestyle over her daughter's well-being. She said that Lily needs stability, not just money, and that I was letting the family down. Her words cut deep, and I started questioning myself, wondering if I really was the cold-hearted person she was making me out to be. Since then, things have been tense. Rachel barely speaks to me, and my parents have sided with her, saying I'm being heartless and that I don't understand what it's like to be a mother. My mom even said she was disappointed in me, which hurt more than I expected. Am I the aita? Am I wrong for setting this boundary? I know Lily deserves a stable life, and I feel guilty for not stepping up more. But is it fair to ask me to become a parent overnight, especially with no clear end in sight? I feel like I'm letting everyone down, and the guilt is eating me alive. But at the same time, I know that taking Lily in would change my life forever. I'd be sacrificing the peace and stability I've worked so hard for. Is it really selfish to want to protect that? Edit/update 1. Thank you for all the responses. I've been reading them all, and it's helping me see things more clearly. To answer a few questions. Why can't our parents take her? They're in their late 60s with health issues that make it challenging to care for a young child. They're supportive of Rachel, but they physically can't handle a toddler full-time. Would I consider joint custody or a shared arrangement? I hadn't thought about that, but I'm open to exploring shared responsibilities if it doesn't mean fully uprooting my life. Could I provide other types of support? I already help financially, but I'm thinking about setting up a college fund for Lily or contributing more to specific childcare needs. Edit/update 2. More conversations with Rachel and an unexpected proposal. After reading through all the responses, I decided to have another sit-down conversation with Rachel. I wanted to explain my concerns and see if we could come to a middle ground. Maybe we could work out some sort of shared arrangement or at least find a way to make this transition smoother for everyone involved. When I visited Rachel, I could tell she was emotionally drained. She looked so much like the kid sister I used to look after, and for a second, I felt a surge of protectiveness. But I reminded myself of my own boundaries. I told her that, while I wasn't prepared to be a full-time guardian for Lily, I wanted to help her make the best possible arrangements. Surprisingly, Rachel was more receptive than I expected. She admitted she was scared and feeling like a failure. She said she didn't want to rely on me, but felt like she had no other options. She expressed real gratitude for my continued support and, through tears, told me she had recently reached out to a family support service in our area to discuss potential resources for single mothers. I felt a sense of relief, as it seemed like she was taking steps to seek support beyond the family. Then Rachel made a surprising suggestion. She asked if I would be open to becoming Lily's legal guardian on paper, without taking her in full-time. The idea was that I'd be her backup in case Rachel had to go to rehab or if her situation became unsustainable. She assured me that she'd do everything in her power to avoid that situation, but she wanted to have a safety net for Lily. This wasn't a complete solution, but it seemed like a step toward compromise. I told her I'd think about it, and we left things on a slightly better note. Edit/update 3. I reached out to a family lawyer. After my conversation with Rachel, I decided to consult a family lawyer to understand what becoming Lily's, on-paper, guardian would entail. I explained my situation, and the lawyer was sympathetic but thorough in outlining the responsibilities. Essentially, having legal guardianship would mean I'd be responsible for Lily's well-being and decision-making if Rachel was ever unable to care for her. It didn't mean I'd have to take her in full-time right now, but it would give me a legal standing to help her if needed. However, the lawyer cautioned that taking on this role could come with risks. For instance, if Rachel disappeared or was unable to reclaim custody after rehab, I could end up in a lengthy and emotional custody battle to secure Lily's stability. This brought up a lot of fear and doubt for me. I don't have experience with the legal system in this way, and the thought of a potential custody dispute down the line added a layer of stress. I couldn't shake the worry that I'd end up being Lily's full-time guardian despite my hesitations. But at the same time, the idea of giving Rachel and Lily some safety net felt meaningful. I'm leaning toward agreeing to the guardianship, but I'm also scared about what this could mean for my life long-term. I don't want to lose the relationship I have with Rachel, and I definitely don't want to see Lily suffer because of my own reservations. Edit/update 4. Family mediation and long-term solutions. After reading the lawyer's advice and hearing from so many of you, I suggested family mediation to Rachel. I felt like we needed a neutral third party to help us navigate our options, especially given the potential legal and emotional weight of this decision. Rachel was hesitant, but eventually agreed. During our first mediation session, I was able to express my feelings about the enormous responsibility and how I felt unprepared to take on such a big commitment. Rachel opened up, too, admitting that she felt guilty for putting this burden on me, but didn't know what else to do. The mediator suggested that, rather than relying solely on me, we should look at a network of support. One potential solution was for Rachel to find a part-time job or a support group through the rehab center that could help cover some of Lily's care. We also explored community resources, like subsidized daycare and family support programs, that could help alleviate the pressure. Rachel even agreed to start attending a parenting support group. While it's not a perfect solution, it felt like we were moving towards something sustainable for both of us. At the end of the session, the mediator helped us create a written agreement. In this plan, I would step in as Lily's guardian only in case of emergency or if Rachel's health required it, but Rachel would maintain primary custody and continue to work on her stability. We agreed to review the arrangement every 6 months to make sure it was working for everyone involved. Final update: where we stand now. It's been a few months since our mediation session, and I feel cautiously optimistic. Rachel has been making an effort to stick to the plan, and she even found a part-time job through a family friend that allows her to work while Lily is at daycare. She's still struggling, but she's more open to seeking help and building a support network beyond just me. As for me, I went ahead with the legal guardianship paperwork, with the understanding that I'd only take on full responsibility if absolutely necessary. It was an emotional decision, but having a formal agreement in place makes me feel a little more secure. I still help out financially when I can, and I'm setting up a small college fund for Lily as a way to contribute to her future without taking over her life right now. Rachel and I still have moments of tension, but we're rebuilding our relationship slowly. My parents have backed off a bit, though they still make occasional comments about how they wish things were different. I've learned to let those comments slide. I know I'm doing what I can in a way that doesn't completely compromise my own boundaries and stability. Lily seems to be doing well, and that's what matters most to me. She's happy, healthy, and I get to see her regularly. I'm grateful for the balance we've found and hope it continues to work for everyone involved. Thank you, Reddit, for helping me navigate one of the toughest decisions of my life. I don't know what the future holds, but I feel better prepared for whatever comes next.